Hi, I'm Pearl Pereira of P3 Designs, and today I'd like to share with you my favorite irons and ironing mats for prepping my applique. So let's flip this camera and get started. So first thing I'd like to show you is a mat that I've used for many years, and it's the mat that has the cutting board on one side and the pressing area on the other side. Now these mats are very nice, but the problem with them is that if you don't cover them, they end up looking like this, especially when you iron in one spot. So then I would cover these with muslin so that my ironing mat would not look like this. And it was okay until I found the Miracle Ironing Mat. Now the Miracle Ironing Mat is a wonderful mat that reflects the heat. It's a little bit larger than the mat that I have underneath here, and I like it because it reflects the heat back towards your iron and it helps dry your fabric shapes a lot quicker. Now, once I found that mat, I decided that I was not going to use these because there was another mat that came out and I wanted to try it. And this mat is the Quilter's Pressing Fleece. And this is from quilterspressingfleece.com, and they come with a nice canvas bag to carry your ironing mat in. But they're 100% wool. They're very dense. I can stick my stiletto in here so that it doesn't roll off while I'm working with it. And I still do place my Miracle Ironing Mat on top of here because it reflects the heat. Now I like the wool mat because it's dense, it doesn't give, it breathes. When you steam things, it goes right through, your fabrics and shapes and, is absorbed into the wool below. Makes for pressing seams really wonderful. The downside to this mat is, of course, that the batting inside is not sewn into the binding. So when my mat does get dirty, I just do a large running stitch with a thread and needle, and then I throw it into the washing machine. If you don't secure the batting inside there, it will end up in a big ball in the center of your mat, and it's very hard to get that to flatten out again. Nice thing about these mats is they are washable. And when they get dirty like this, then I will just put some OxyClean on here and I will let it soak for a little while, throw it in the laundry with the towels and things, and then it comes out nice and clean almost 100% of the time. I will say that this was waiting a little bit too long. I'm sure that some of this will come out the next time I wash it, but I did wait a little bit too long before I washed this one. So the Miracle Ironing Mat is for reflecting the heat back. When you're ironing, you have your fabric, it's reflecting the heat up, your iron is reflecting the heat down. It dries your shapes much quicker. My favorite ironing surface. The next mat I want to tell you about is a Teflon pressing sheet. And they come in different sizes, different colors. And what I use these for is when I am ironing my freezer paper, when I iron it, it doesn't stick to the Teflon mat. If I were ironing it to my regular ironing mat, it would leave a residue on your mat. Eventually your mat will get very heavy with residue from all of the poly coating on here that will stick. So even on my wool mat, I do not iron directly on it with my freezer paper. I always use my favorite pressing mat, which is this one, and this one is from Threadbare Designs. I carry these on my website. This is a 13 by 17, I believe it is, mat. It comes up rolled like that. You roll it out. To store it, I just roll it back up. They're very nice, and they're always flat. And when I'm ironing my freezer papers on here, just like with the other one, none of the coating sticks to the Teflon mat. It all stays on your paper, so that when you are prepping your applique shapes and you have this iron to your fabric, you have all that coating on there that will adhere to your fabric. So that is what the Teflon pressing sheets are for, and the ones that I like the best. Now it comes to our irons. And for our irons, one of my favorite irons is the Clover craft iron. Now you might be able to see mine is getting really worn. I hope that it will last a lot longer, because they don't make this anymore. It's they quit making these a few years ago. I think people can find them on Amazon, but they were at double the cost that they were originally. But you can't get these anymore. Another iron that I like, and I guess I forgot to say, I use this iron for ironing my shapes onto my fabric. When I'm ironing my freezer papers, I will use a regular household iron, or I have one of those fabric presses that will do a whole sheet at one time. But I don't use regular household iron when I'm ironing my shapes, because it's very big, very bulky, and it's hard to manipulate when you need to get inside little shapes. So that's why I like a craft size iron. Next iron that I do like is I like the Clover mini iron. It comes with a smaller foot, and I replaced it with the larger foot, which you can buy separately. If you're using the small foot on here, I tell you to use it on medium, because if you're using it on high, it has a tendency to scorch the fabric slightly if you stay too long in one spot. Because it's a smaller foot, all of that heat is being sent to that small area. With the larger foot on here, I get a much larger surface area when I'm ironing shapes, and it's perfectly fine when I have it on high, because it has enough room to disperse that heat over this larger surface. Love this iron. And my next two irons are the Sherry's Cool Tools. Now, the Sherry's Cool Tool irons, I do carry these on my website, and as you can see, it has a very tiny foot. It's spade shaped. Of course, it might be kind of hard to see. It's shaped like a little spade. It comes to a sharp point. I love this one, and I use this one. I always have this iron on. And I will use two irons at one time when I'm using this. I have a second iron, which I have set up with the cone tip on it. And Sherry's Cool Tool was nice enough to include this in their packages after I asked them if they would make this cone tip for getting into concave areas like this, small concave shapes. So it's wonderful. Both of these are wonderful. And I didn't like switching between the tips, so I just used two irons. Now, another thing that I'd like to show you about these two is that this is, and I should zoom out. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit on this. Oh, I can't. But this is a soldering iron stand, and it comes in 3 pieces, so it's easy to travel with. I use it for my cool tools. Now, it goes on here with this plastic ring toward the top, but your iron doesn't stay in as well, so I put it on backwards, and now when I place my iron inside here, it will not come out. And the reason that I use this is because I can pick up this iron now in the proper orientation for my using it. Whereas if it's laying down on the ironing mat, I pick it up, it's in the wrong orientation. I have to cumbersomely, flip the iron so that I can get it in the right orientation. These irons, this ironing stand is sold on Amazon, and you can get it on partsexpress.com if they don't actually have it on Amazon. There are many different types. They have some that have a big large coil on them, and I tell you not to use that because your irons have a tendency to get caught in the coils or go sideways. The nice thing about this stand, let's see if I can get a better picture of it this way, is that I will have my irons in here, and when I'm working, I have, like I said, I usually have both of these irons on. So I will have this one sitting in here, and I'll have the second one down here where it won't fall off the ironing board. And if I happen to be using my larger iron, it will also set in here. So everything is set in place, and my household iron I usually have set off to the side. And 1 second here, and I'll show you what that also setup looks like, is because I also will use this ironing mat, which is heat resistant also, protects your table. So what I will have is I will have my 2 irons on this stand. I have my Clover iron in here. See if I can get these to stay. And then I will have my craft iron set on here. The reason that I like to use the mat for the craft iron is that when I set it down, and especially close to the edge of my table sometimes, it will spin on me, and it just keeps it from doing that. So this is my ironing setup when I'm working. I have this right next to me, and I know it's hard to see with the overhead camera, but it sits here. My mat is next to me with my Miracle ironing mat, and then I'm ready to start prepping my shapes. I hope that these tips on my tools will help you with your selection of tools and ironing mats when you're shopping for items to help you with your applique prep. Thank you. Keep stitching and keep watching for more videos.